Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing my November wrap-up. Finally, I'm finally going to film this, and it should be an interesting one. I actually read quite a lot of books in November, mostly audiobooks. Are we surprised? I read 14 books in November. I think that is probably the most books I've ever read in a single month. It's a lot, and I'm going to tell you they're all audiobooks, most of them. I think there's there's 3 physical books, and then I think there was one ebook, so, and it was a novella. So yeah, audiobooks coming in a clutch for me, because I do listen to them a lot at work, and I can fly, if it's not crazy busy, I can fly through them pretty quickly. So anyway, here we go with the wrap up. The first book I listened to was Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. Now, we listened to this on the way to Illinois, so it was the very beginning of the month, and I gave this 5 stars. I knew this was going to be a fantastic book. I knew I was going to love this book, which is why it took me so long to actually read it, because I was edging, and I knew it was going to be good, and I was waiting for a perfect moment to listen to it. And my friend that I was going to Illinois with, told me to pick an audiobook to listen to because he was getting tired of listening to the radio or whatever. And I was like, I don't really feel like anything. And he goes, well, what about that Haunting Adeline book? And I'm like, you want to listen to that? Okay. Let me tell you something. Teddy Hamilton, I know he is a favorite among audiobook listeners, but he is, and it's for a reason. He is so good. And he does voices different. The voice for Zaid is different than voices he does for other books that I've listened to, and I'm just he does such a good job. It's amazing. So yeah, I give that one 5 stars. If you guys know what Haunting Adeline is by now, it's a very dark romance, and it ends on a cliffhanger. Just be forewarned, it does end on a cliffhanger. Also, so then after that, on the way home from Illinois, we listened to Hunting Adeline, which that one I gave 4 stars. So it was still really good, really dark. The beginning, so I have a friend that was reading this and was telling me that she couldn't even finish Hunting Adeline because of the content that was in it. Now, I read a lot of dark, she reads a lot of dark romance too, but I read a lot of dark romance. I've read some really fucked up books. So yes, there is a lot of dark stuff that happens in Hunting Adeline, especially with the human trafficking element of it, but it wasn't dark to the point where I was I can't finish this, I need to stop, because I was really confused. I'm what about this is so horrible? But I guess everyone has their levels of what they can accept and take. So but that's not the reason I get 4 stars. The 4 stars is because I feel there was probably 2 or 3 unnecessary sex scenes, especially later toward the end. I'm are we doing this again? And the epilogue scene, I'm really, this is how you're ending this book? It was still really good, don't get me wrong. It was the same narrators. Teddy Hamilton did fantastic. I loved the story. It was really, really good. I keep saying that, but it is. H.D. Carlton wrote this book phenomenally, and I still love the duet. I want to go back, and when I get physical copies, do tabs and annotate. But yeah, so they're good. Very dark romances. Not as darkest I've ever read, though. I will put that out there. Okay, so next, I started this book in October for spooky season for my October vlogs, and that is All Hallows Eve by Michael Penning. I finally finished this in November, and I did give it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. There's no romance or anything in it. It ends the way this book ends. I'm are you fucking serious? Because this poor Alice is, yeah. So this woman Alice, her husband is an investigator or detective of some sort, and he's in Salem, Massachusetts. This does take place in it's after the Revolutionary War, so the late 1700s. Her husband goes to Salem to investigate these occurrences that have been happening. He disappears. She goes to Salem with her young daughter to look for her husband. And of course, it's 100 years since the witch trials, and there's rumors going around that there was this prophecy or curse or something on the put on the town, and these events have been occurring, which her husband was investigating, that were like leading up to this event of that's happening. Like, I think who the person was that was, it was one of the women hanged during the witch trials, and I can't remember, was Rebecca Hale, I believe, might have been the one that was in here. The ghost of Rebecca Hale is supposed to come back, and like children go missing every year, and so Alice's daughter does eventually go missing, and Alice's daughter goes missing along with a local seaman. I forget who the hell, but his daughter also goes missing, and they team up to locate their children, and all these occurrences start happening. Like, it's spooky. There is an actual ghost, because a lot of times you read like haunted stories of like haunted houses, and it's not really like an actual like haunted house. It's like somebody fucking with you. No, there are some scary scenes. There's some gruesome scenes. It's an indie published horror book, and it's part of a series. So it doesn't end on a cliffhanger, but it ends with the potential for more. So there is a book after this called The Suicide Lake, I believe, which is a continuation of one of the characters from this book, and it's like after the events that happen in this. So I don't want to give spoilers of who's in that book, because then it kind of gives it away a little bit. So I wouldn't look into what Suicide Lake is about yet until if you want to read this one. But I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of, I've been to Salem, and it's very like the street names, the buildings. It's very like you're being put back in Salem back 200, 300 years ago, however long that was. And I really did enjoy this. I think I said Tud, I gave it 4 stars. And I do want to read the second one, Suicide Lake, because I'm very curious. But yeah, how this ends, I'm just like, this woman goes through so much just for it to end like that. Like, come on, really? But yeah, I do definitely recommend this. I was hoping there would be a romance between Alice and the father, because he was a widower, I believe. So I was hoping there would be a little something there, but no. Also, I docked it a star a little bit because there was a lot of POVs chapters. Like, you get Alice, you get Jonas, who are like the 2 like main characters, but then you get like other random citizens, like their perspectives, like what's going on with them throughout the whole town. And I'm like, it's a little bit too much going on. But I still really enjoyed it. So next I'm going to show you the physical copy because I have it, but I did listen to Twisted Pride by Cora Riley, which is book 3 of the Kimura Chronicles. I'm still working my way very slowly through this series, through all my Cora Riley backlist. I gave this one 4 stars. So this is a mafia with Remo Falcone and Serafina. They are so something happens, I forget, because she's from a different mafia family, and something happens with them. So in retaliation, Remo kidnaps her on her wedding day. She's supposed to be getting married to whatever, this other guy. And he kidnaps her and keeps her hostage, essentially. And then feelings develop. It's their romance. This does have an unexpected, or I should say unexpected pregnancy, surprise pregnancy trope in it. It's really good. There is a lot of, toward the end, there's a lot of like time jumping, and I'm just like, oh, can we not? I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of time jumping unless it makes sense. This one, I guess it kind of made sense for this, but like there was like just too much of it going on. Like we were jumping months, we were jumping weeks, we were jumping like a year almost. Like it was just a lot of it going on toward the end of this. Also, one of my pet peeves, I love the surprise pregnancy and the secret baby trope. I really do. One of my pet peeves though is when they have twins. I don't know why. I just like, can we just have one baby? Like, I know twins, like it happens, obviously, but it's one of those things because I wrote our role play for a really long time, for like 15 plus years. And one of the things people would do when they would have like a pregnancy plotline is if they couldn't decide between if they wanted to have a girl or a boy, they would just have one of each and make it twins. And I'm just like, can we not? That just seems like a cop out. So like, I know that's not intentionally what like this was, but like anytime I read something like that, that's generally what comes to my head, and it bothers me. But so yeah, there was that, and then I don't remember. I'm filming on my phone, and I have notes in. I've been using Bookmori, and I've been taking notes as I've been reading all these books, and Bookmori is only available on my phone or my tablet, and I can't get it on my Kindle, my Fire. So I'm trying to like go this with like from memory, and it's not working very well. Anyway, but yeah, so I ended up giving that one 4 stars. I still loved it. I love Core Riley. This was like my, out of the 3, this was probably my favorite one. Twisted Emotions was really good. The second one was really good though. I don't know. And it was also good. You get to see some of the characters from the first 2 books as well. But yeah, I don't know. That might have been maybe my favorite one. The beginning it got really good in the beginning, and then like toward the end, I was kind of like, okay, can we stop time jumping? So I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's definitely up there. Next, we're gonna go on a big run of more audiobooks because these are ones that flew through at work. So the first one is Timid by Devney Perry. So now these are gonna jump around a little bit because I did read certain books in this series. This is her Lark Cove series. So I read Tattered, like it might have been the first audiobook I ever read on Hoopla. It's very possible. I read it like 2 years ago or something like that, or a year or 2 ago. Yeah, it was a while ago. I read Tattered, and then I skipped to Tragic because I was reading the Clifton Forge series by Devney Perry, and the one book in that is the brother of the guy in Tragic. So like I skipped book 2 and read book 3 because I wanted to know what happened, the story and the backstory for when I read, I think it was not Fallen, it's the second one, Riven Knight in that series is the one that had the brother. Yeah, anyway, there are characters that overlap in her books, just FYI. So I went back and I finished Lark Cove because I am working through Devney Perry's backlist, and she does have all of Lark Cove on Hoopla as well as the Mason Jar books. The Birthday List and Letters to Molly are also on Hoopla, so I'm gonna get to those eventually too. But Timid, I gave 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite. I'm trying to remember which one this was. This was Friends to Lovers, I believe. This was, I can't remember what I know he works at the bar. I can't remember what she does, if she also works at the bar. But like she's had a crush on him forever, and he like can never remember her damn name. Oh, Willa. Her name's Willa. Because he kept calling her Willow, and she's like, that's not my name. And then like eventually he realized, he's like, who is that girl? And I was like, she's like, it's Willa. And he's like, what, really? And like he finally notices her, and it's one of those things. And I can't remember what else. Like that's about all I remember about this book. Like it was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed listening to it. I enjoyed the story, but it wasn't amazing. I already forgot most of it. So that was 3 stars. Then I went and read Tinsel, which is the book. Tragic is 3, so it's book 4 in the series. Tinsel is the hero from book 1, Logan, his younger sister. This is her story. So I do remember she is like a model in New York. She has this like article written about her, and she thinks it's going to be this great thing, like talking her up, and it's really like just complete like putting her and like her way of life down, like how she's not relatable to like a normal person, and she's just like an airhead, like, you know, whatever. And she gets super upset by it and needs a break, and ends up going to Lark Cove to visit her brother. They go on vacation somewhere, so she's in the house by herself, and the hero is also the guy that works at the bar. I just realized that. I think they're both the same guys. I think he's like the co-owner or the manager of the bar or whatever. So she ends up working there as like something to do, and he's like, are you serious? Like, she's useless. Absolutely not. I ended up giving this one 2 stars, mostly because the heroine was really annoying, because she was a rich girl who had everything handed to her in life, never had to do anything for herself. But it was just like, I don't care necessarily. And like she didn't know how to, like she was sweeping and like didn't know that you could use a dustpan, and was like trying to clean up the dirt with her hands. And I'm like, are you that like out of, like, how can someone be so out of touch with like just in like the world? Like, I don't know. It just seemed like, yeah, I wasn't a fan. So that one. That was a 2-star. And then finally I read book 5 in that series, which is Timeless. This one is the other sister. Because I think Logan has 2 sisters. So it's the other sister, and I think he's a sheriff or he's a cop or detective. Yes, he's a detective because he shows up in Tinsel. Him and the heroine have like a date, but it doesn't really work out. They're like, oh, we're just better as friends. And she's like, but you should go see my sister. So this is their story, the sister and the detective. And I give this one 4 stars. This one is a newer one. Like, Debney wrote the first 4 like however many years ago, and then Timeless just came out like a year ago or something like that. It's a new one in the series, a newer one. So it was written a little bit like after she's done other stuff, which you can definitely tell. But this one was really good. The hero is just like absolutely will do anything for her, and she's like, you really like. She doesn't understand like that he doesn't care, like, because she's had relationships where like her work is her life. And like she's had a relationship with guys who like got really annoyed if she was working too much and didn't pay them any attention. And our hero, I can't remember his name, of course. Our hero is just like, he's like, oh, you have to work, no problem. He's like, I'll just crash here on the couch and like nap until you're done, like whatever. He didn't care, like, and it was so sweet. I loved it so much. So that one was 4 stars. And then I finally finished the Lark Cove. That completed the Lark Cove series. Next, I again listened to A Deal with the Devil by Elizabeth O'Rourke, and I gave this one 5 stars. But this one was I forget. I think she's in a. So he is like a Hollywood doctor. He's like a plastic surgeon. So he's like super famous, not famous, but like super like well known. Because he does like plastic surgery for like celebrities. So he does like, the Botox and the whatever, the boob lifts, boob jobs, facelifts, all that kind of stuff. And she ends up being like his assistant or her secretary or something, because her friend has to go somewhere. So she like takes his place in the interim, something like that. And he's a huge grump. And she's like, what is your problem? Like, you are not going to talk to me like that. And why are you such an asshole? Like, there's no reason for that. And I really love that. And he also, there was other stuff too. I can't find, I don't remember any of the notes, but I really did. This book was so good. Like, I want to get a physical copy of it. Next is going to be the books that I listened to or read for my Hoopla the bonus buys video. I think you should, I don't know if that's come out yet. Depending on how my schedule with filming goes, you'll either see this first or that first. I don't know. Anyway, then I listened to for that video Before You by Marnie Mann. This one I gave 3 stars because the hero, is it this one? I think is the hero is an asshole. I think it was this one. This is the one where I hated the hero. And I rarely hate the hero. Usually it's the heroine I find super annoying, but I did not like the hero in this one. So this one was also the beginning of this, FYI, triggers for plane crash, and the fact that the plane crashes in a field in rural Pennsylvania, I was like, oh, this is like reminiscent of 9/11. But so they end up meeting on a plane. They're flying. She's a food critic. Like for Instagram. So when she was in college, she started like rating and reviewing and critiquing like local restaurants and stuff, and she ended up getting like super like famous for it, and it ended up becoming like a full-time gig for her. So she is essentially an Instagram food critic, and he is a businessman, something like that, and they end up meeting on a plane that ends up crashing. And it's kind of how they're thrown together, because they just kind of keep like getting together after that incident. And you gradually start to learn that there's something not quite kosher about the relationship they have on his side. Like, he is hiding something. And as you listen on, you're like, this is really weird. Like, he like has already like knows her, but we don't know how he knows her. And when you find out, I was just like that twist was good, but it was the fact how he acted, because he was essentially using her for his own benefit and his own gain, and lies to her. And yeah, I was not a fan of that. That really like just bothered me. So I ended up giving it 3 stars. It was a good story. It was well written. The hero I did not like, which is again a rare occurrence. Oh, I skipped one. I skipped one. So before that, I read Fluffy by Julia Kent. That was the first book I read for that Hoopla bonus buys video. This one was a rom-com. It was I gave it 4 stars. So this one is our heroine is he's a fluffer. Now, if you don't know what that is, you can Urban Dictionary it, or I'm just going to tell you. So a fluffer nowadays is on a porn set is the person that keeps the man hard. That's straight up what they are. Apparently, which I didn't know if this is true or not. I had to look this up. But apparently, a house stager, like when you go to like open houses for sale or whatever, like the house is like has furniture and stuff in it, like how it could look. So those are stagers, essentially. Apparently they used to be called fluffers, like house fluffers. I never heard that term before in that context, but so this is what our heroine is. She uses this old archaic term, and as you can imagine, she takes a job on Craigslist, which red flag number 1, and it's for a professional fluffer. She goes to this house, doesn't realize it's a porn set, because they like Airbnb'd the house to film a porn video. And it is so funny when she's like, what is happening? Like, first of all, it takes her a little bit too long, I feel like, to realize that she's on a porn set. I think, but in my brain, I'm like, well, she's got probably rationalizing, like, there's no way. Like, this has got to be something, like, this has got to be like a cooking show, because they talk about cream pie. And she's like, oh, it's a cooking show. They're filming a cooking show. And I'm just like, oh God, girl, you need some help. But I talk about this in that vlog. So if you already come from there, this is just like redundant. But anyway, yeah. So eventually she realizes where she is and is like, oh my God, get me out of here. But before that, the cops show up because the guy who owns the house and rented it to this film crew didn't know what they were doing until a neighbor called and said something. So then he checked their like cameras and saw what they were doing and like called the cops. And it turns out the guy that owned the house was a guy that she went to high school with, and had a huge crush on. Like, he was a big jock. And yeah, so, and it's their romance, because they're kind of get thrown back together. And then she's known, like, there's this picture that goes viral of her with like the main like male from the porn video. He's like a famous porn star, and it's so funny. It's so funny. It's entertaining to read. Erin Mallon narrates it, and it's just fantastic. Like, she hits the heroine's like personality perfectly. It's just a really fun read. It is a series, but they're like connected standalones. And I believe all of them are in Hoopla, as far as I'm aware. I don't know if I'll read the rest of them. Maybe if I want something fun, but this one was I was definitely like pleasantly surprised by it. So that one was 4 stars. And then I read, so in between while listening, I was also reading a novella, which is Even in Death by Lilith Roman. This is my first Lilith Roman. This is actually my first for a lot of authors this month. It's a ghost novella. It's a horror ghost novella, and I gave it 4 stars. It took me a little while to get into it, because I'm like, what is this happen? It was a little bit slow to start, but you're like curious enough to wonder what's happening. So we have our heroine whose parents died, and she is in their big Victorian like mansion house, going through everything, packing up everything, and then she starts to have like these what do you call them? What's it called when sleep paralysis. She has to have sleep paralysis issues where she like has these dreams or experiences of like this entity like sexually assaulting her. and starts to real. I thought at first I thought it was like a sleep paralysis demon, because there are sleep. That's a thing. I've never experienced that, but it's a thing. But and then she unravels this like mystery of like things that have happened in the past at this house that she has suppressed, like her brain suppressed them. And then she learns the truth of something that happened there in her past, and it gets really, really good. As soon as you start to realize that there's something else going on, it gets really good. And then you figure out who the ghost is that's still in the house. It's great. However, the ending, I was so mad. I wasn't mad, but I was just like, are you serious? Really? That's how we're going to end this? But yeah, so it's a ghost romance. But it was 4 stars. It was really good. I definitely recommend it. I think it was on KU. So okay, then getting back to my audiobooks, my one that I was reading, I then listened to Crave by Piper Lawson. This one I gave 3 stars. This was just like a generic teacher or professor student romance. I remember very little about it. I remember that she is an engineering major. Her parents disapproved of the major. They thought it was a waste of time. There's some kind of like competition. The original history professor that she had died. His son takes over the class. And this was after they have an encounter at a bar the night before, which is typical. I feel this is my thing. My issue with this was it felt very formulaic, in the sense that like teacher student, they tend to have the ones I've read. This is the ones I've read of teacher student, professor student romances, where they always have an encounter outside of school during the summer or whatever, and then school comes in, and then now, oh no, like you're my teacher, oh shit, you're my student, like what the hell. And that's pretty much how they've all gone that I've read. If you guys have ones that are different than that, please send the recommendations my way, because I really want to get some, like I really don't want to fall into this trap of me not liking teacher student or professor student, because they're just like the same essential skeleton, and I'm like, I want something unique. Which is why I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It was enjoyable, but it was just like nothing special to me. And then I listened to the final one for this was Empire of Lust by J.L. Beck. And let me tell you how close I was to DNFing this. I ended up giving it 2 stars altogether, but this was one where I didn't like the hero. I didn't like the relationship. The heroine didn't bother me quite as much as I've read some other reviews where they have with other people. She has with other people, but this was a mafia romance, but it did not feel at all mafia. I don't even remember what he did for the mafia. He was like, he did something, but we don't really get to see it. Every once in a while you get to see him like get mad because he doesn't know where she is, and she's not like immediately within his sights, and he just can't like function if she's not near. And he's the epitome of an obsessive possessive hero, to the point where it's like, girl, you need to run, because he is not. Like there is an instance in here where he wants to trap her with him, and changes her birth control pills for sugar pills, because he wants to get her pregnant so she can never leave him. And I'm just like, listen, I like a possessive obsessive hero, but that's a little bit ridiculous. And like there's just instances where she just got a job at like a law firm or something, and he gets really, really mad when she doesn't return home like right away, because she was just like running late or whatever, but he gets like all angry because thinking that she's like out flirting with interns or like whatever. And I'm just like, boy, get over yourself. Like, really? And he's in like a meeting with like people from the mob or whatever, and wants to be done with it because he's like, I wonder what she's doing. Like, I don't want to be here. And I'm like, dude, really? It was literally pure just lust, and like the relationship was just ridiculous. There was jealousy left and right. Like, I'm just like, this is dumb. So the final book, finally, I'm going to talk about in this video is going to be Reckless Memories by Catherine Cowles. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. This was fine. I still love Catherine Cowles, but there are some books I like more than others, which is going to happen with any author. So this one is a kind of Friends to Lovers. So Friends to Lovers is like one of the ones I kind of find boring unless there's like really a lot of tension and angst. But Friends to Lovers is kind of to me. I like the dynamic of like enemies to lovers or age gap or like forbidden. So this one is so they so that so her and the hero were best friends growing up, and along with the heroine's sister, she was dating the hero, and they were all three like a really good friend group. But the heroine and our hero, I can't remember their names now, Ford and Isabel Bell, they were really close. And then one night there's an accident that ends up killing her sister and really severely injuring her. And of course he's to blame. The whole town blames him and hates him for it. So he ends up taking off and leaving for like 10 years. She's moved on. She still is really upset that he disappeared because she had to go through this trauma essentially alone. And her sister was always like the favorite child, and her parents were people that always wanted Isabel Bell to be just like her sister, and she gets really like isn't really on good terms with them because of that. So our hero, his family owns a like bar restaurant in town that's having a little bit of trouble. She works there or is like the manager of it now. So he ends up coming back to help get the restaurant back up on his feet. He's been living in LA, opening his own like successful chain of bars, like fancy schmancy bougie bars. So he comes back into town to help out. They are reconnected, and there's a lot of like unresolved issues, obviously, because he disappeared and left her to cope alone. He didn't even know that she was injured as severely as she was in the accident, because he just did up and disappeared. So there's a lot of tension there. But there's also, because it's Catherine Cowles, there's a suspense element to it where someone's been leaving like these little reminders of, I think Violet is the sister's name, little reminders of Violet like around for Isabel, like don't forget her. And like it of course it starts to escalate. So it's really good. I will say the thing I like about Catherine Cowles is the romantic suspense. And the suspense in this was very light until like the last 20-30 pages, and this is like a 300 and some page book, and I'm just like, it like all came and happened really fast at the end, and I was like, I liked it a little bit more, you know, drawn out, but it was still really good. I enjoyed it, but it was just the beginning. It took me a little bit to get through like the beginning because it just felt slow and like sluggish. So that's the last book I think I told you I gave it 3 stars, right? Yeah. Those are the 14 books that I read for the month of November. Let me tell you how sincerely proud of myself I am for reading that many books in a month. But it's a big thank you to all of the audiobooks, and especially Hoopla, because without them, I honestly probably would have only read like 3 books. Sad truth. But yeah, let me know. Again, leave some recommendations down below for like some good student professor romances. That's it for me. I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll see you next month for December. I can guarantee I probably won't read as many books as I have this in November, but we shall see what the end of the year brings. Bye.